GameWorn Radio is on the air.
Hey! Shelton scores! Up in the Cordova, baby! We're going bowling. Now, let's go hunt moose on a Harley. The fires, he scores! L.A. face with an Oakland booty. Scores! Make me a bicycle club. They score! Bowmeister paid that man his money.
GameWorn Radio.
Hey everybody, it's Derek with GameWorn.us. We're part of GameWorn Radio on the air. We've got Eric Turnrose and our fan favorite Jason Doc Noise on the line. How you
Fan
guys doing?
favorite, listen to you.
Everybody loves you, man. You got that radio voice, you know?
Something like that.
Right? So this week we're talking about the Meigray Expo and the Blackhawks Convention. So it was a pretty interesting story, actually. I was supposed to go to the Blackhawks Convention. I was all ready to go. I'd bought my tickets way back in when they went on sale in I think it was January, so quite some time ago. And a bunch of stuff happened with the website and all this stuff, and started getting my hands in a bunch of different places. And Meigray sent me the personal invitation to go represent GameWorn.us out in New Jersey with them. So I had to pass on the Blackhawks convention because I've never been to the Meigray thing, and I really wanted to check it out, and it was a really cool time. So it was pretty fun. I don't think any of you guys have went to this one. I know you didn't, Doc. Eric, I didn't see you there. Have you guys ever been to the Meigray Expo?
I want to in the next couple years, and just timing had never been right to do it. But I know I've dealt with Barry on quite a few jerseys over the years in that group, and would love to check them out. And I know I've had some friends go out there and go to their facility, and I think it'd just be so much fun to be out there with other people just like us.
And, you know, I feel the same way. Unfortunately, it seems like every year the Hawk Convention's the same week as the Meigray, or it's like a week before or a week after. So it's kind of, for me, it's more funding. You know, either fork the bill out for travel and lodging to go out there and not as much play money, or go to something that's right down the road, do the room package, and have a little more play money. So that's kind of my predicament, you know, with the last grouping of what they've had.
Yeah, you know, it was pretty interesting. I made the drive from Toledo to New Jersey, and I did that on Friday night. And lucky me, I was able to talk to someone who was going as well, and we have mutual interests, and we've helped each other out. Phil Watstein, he was pretty cool. He split a hotel room with me, and I split my table space with him, so that was pretty cool. So we arranged pretty much meeting up and going to the thing together, because he's gone quite a bit. I think he said he went to like every single one since maybe 2008, something like that. So definitely not bad at all. And it was a lot of fun when I got there, you know. He got me into the room and everything, and he was doing his own thing. We met up later, kind of went over all the cool things that he was bringing. But, I mean, I was done. I wanted to go out with the Meigray guys the night before, because I guess they go out on the town or whatever. But I just couldn't do it, man. It was a 9-hour drive, which really was about 9.5 to 10 hours with stopping and filling up for gas and things like that. So it's kind of a little bit of a daunting task just to get down there. So got my my good sleep and got packed up and went out to the Meigray location, which was at a community college. They have a big old conference room where we would all get set up, and it's really cool when you walk in. They got a booth set up where you can get your name badge and everything, and they have little discount coupon code in there to let you know that you can get a discount on a full price jersey and things like that also. And then we can go in, find our table, and start getting set up. So I mean, I got there like a quarter after 8, and the show opened up at 9. So I was a little bit behind. Normally I wouldn't have a problem getting set up, but I borrowed my dad's minivan, right? Because I've got a Mustang, so I can't fit shit in there, right? So I got my dad's minivan, and I loaded it up with absolutely everything that I have. 2 sets of goalie pads. I took the Jared Currow and the Thomas McCullums. I took my Glendenning entire mannequin setup, and I took all my jerseys, a jersey rack, and a bunch of computer hardware gear. Because one of the things that we did while we were there was we were broadcasting live through what's the service that we use for video streaming? I think it's live stream is what they call it. So we were live streaming the event for people that couldn't show up, which was pretty cool because you could like interact with people. You can see them chatting to you and things like that. I mean, there's like a maybe 10-15 second delay on it, but I mean, it's definitely better than nothing. And I had it planned out really sweet too. I had my computer set up with a projector projecting up onto the wall so you can see everything that's going on, or everybody in the room can kind of see what's going on. And I had a tablet with me that I had connected as well. And I was streaming from the tablet so I could walk around with this tablet and show people everything that they want to see. I had a webcam on a wire so I could move it around and orient it without looking weird on that tablet. So it was really cool for people that could actually see the feed. I was hoping to have someone on here to talk about what they saw on the feed. But everything kind of went off pretty good. The only snag I hit was I went to go save my video feeds so everybody could watch it later, but I hit close instead of save. Lost it all.
That had to be just heartbreaking.
I mean, I was pretty pissed about it. It sucked. I thought it would be really cool to look back on it, and the thing that I think sucks the most about it is missing the Mike Bossy footage. He was the speaker at the expo, and I mean, it was really cool. He was a good speaker, and I think the funniest part about the whole thing was the banter back and forth between Barry Mizell and Bossy. They've known each other for quite some time, so they were rib jabbing each other about past events from like the 80s and shit like that. It was really cool. But he's a really funny guy, very entertaining. His stories were great, had a lot of great input. So I mean, that would really, that sucks the most about losing the footage. But if you saw in the article I wrote, I was able to get pictures from a bunch of the collectors that were there. It was pretty cool. And the warehouse tour, I've got the live footage of that recorded. So the video we have on there is actually from live stream, and I made sure I didn't jack that one up. So we actually were able to save that and allow people to watch that. So that was pretty cool. So I'll talk about the warehouse viewing a little bit later. But I kind of just wanted to touch on that really quick. I'll come back to it, but I wanted to hear from you guys too about the Blackhawks Convention, because I know you guys either went or you got some good information from people that went. So tell me a little bit about that, since I definitely missed out on going to that because both things were happening at the same exact time. It's just really weird that I had to give up going to one to go to the other.
Eric, it's all you. I know you were there.
Yeah, yeah, I was there. One of the reviews that's on the forum, and some of the pictures are from me, and I think the others might have been from Sean or Scott. You had to have deep pockets this year, that's for sure. I mean, any other year when they've won the cup, stuff's gotten pricey, but to this year was even more crazy as normal. Needless to say, you know, the jerseys that did have cup patches on them, they were backups to the actual finals ones, so they weren't true cup finals jerseys. And I think the lowest one sold for $2,500, $2,600, I think. And the highest was like $4,500, $5,500, around in that range, if memory serves me right. So, pretty wild in terms of prices. Even just regular gamers from this year were a lot. You know, I'd say a lot more. That's for sure. So, they did sell practice jerseys there this year. Instead of having a rack that they usually just wheel at the beginning of the day, they kept them behind the counter. So if you wanted something, you had to go up and ask one of the equipment guys what they were. The price list was on the counter. It was a nice laminated sheet, and then it was in an organized fashion, sort of line up and on what they wanted. Where in years past, they rolled the practice jersey or training camp rack out, and collectors would just run and grab wads of jerseys and sort through them, kind of the same chaos that they had at Rockford this past year. So it's good to see those. It's my assumption, based on kind of what I'm hearing, that they're going to be switching to CCM practice jerseys. So I'm not sure if the gamers are going to be tagged as well. We could start seeing those in the AHL this year. So just kind of rumblings I've heard, it sounds like there's going to be CCM tagging practice jerseys in the NHL this year. So and then just in terms of unique stuff, this is the second year or third year, something like that they've had canning jars with the different items. The only thing they really cut up is broken stuff. So you got a broken Taves stick, they'll take and cut it in 6-7 inch increments. They'll put it in the canning jar. They'll take broken skate laces, whatever the case is, they'll tag it. So it looks like the canning jars with like baking goods. You'll see like a crafts place will sell like baking materials in a little canning jar for a gift. Same mindset with this. You'll have different little, rivet off his helmet or a sticker off of Kane's helmet or a broken stick or whatever. It'll be in this ingredient jar and they have it tagged. Every year it seems like they've sold out of them. And I think I saw a picture recently that the one Blackhawks store at a mall actually is selling them as well. So they're not using gamer jerseys or anything like that. It's all broken stuff that they can basically make money off of doing that way. The one thing I did notice in a picture, it did have the locker room nameplate that looks like they're cut, which I was kind of sad about. I wanted to get some of those, but in terms of unique things that was there, I submitted a picture for the forum on the hockey skate steel. That they basically cut the steel off in pieces and made pendants for necklace some of the star players, and those were selling for pretty good money. I think it was $150 or $175 or something for steel on a necklace. So there's a couple of unique things like that. There's gold pucks, and the nice thing is those come with a nice letter, and they come with a case and a picture. It's a really nice case setup, right? Where some people just have the generic puck case and slap it in there. This is actually nice. So, and then like every year they always do a grab bag, and those things always out. So those were pretty good too. Each grab bag, they do one each day, and there's a star player for each day. I missed out on them, so I couldn't tell you who the star players were this year. I think Keith and Shaw were. So I don't remember the other person for that. So those sell out within 10-15 minutes of the doors opening usually. So, but between the live auction and then the silent auction that turns into a live auction, prices were crazy pretty much for everything. Since I'm a goalie guy, and even usually Fridays are not as crazy as Saturday, and comparatively speaking, each day was just crazy in terms of prices. $1,500 for a Corey Crawford stick at a live auction is absurd, absolutely absurd, when you can see that one of the forum has them for like $400 or $500. So if you're thinking Crawford is at Kane and Taves, I think they're $1,800, $2,000 for a stick and up. So it's just ridiculous prices. When the years prior, you could probably get a Kane or a Taves for around $1,000.
Wow.
You really didn't miss much. I left. I didn't buy anything from this year, so it's my second year kind of striking out. So that's kind of the scoop.
It's all been through the. Whoop, go ahead.
I say I had some friends that went. They go every year. They're huge Hawks fans. They're not huge in collecting, but try and get some of the game, the goal scored pucks, things like that. And I guess normally they don't open the doors for those sales until I think 3:00 the first day, and they got in their badges at noon when you could pick them up, and found out that they had just kind of opened the doors early and let some of those pucks and stuff sell, because she wanted a particular one of that Taze scored actually when a game that they were on her birthday. And said some of that kind of stuff, the waiting in lines for the autographs and some of the sales, that silent auction that turns into live auction sounds kind of like a kind of a big cluster to me. It's like, if do one or the other, don't do both on the same thing.
Right. And it kind of is. In terms of the doors opening, typically every year they've had and the convention always, it baffles me to this day. You buy passes through Ticketmaster, you get them mailed to you. So you're already ahead of the game. You already have the passes prior to. If you get a room special, like what we do, and I know other guys that are the big collectors do that as well, they'll get you, basically you call up at the time they go live, you get or go on sale, you get a hotel room for or whatever part of the hotel rate, you get 2 passes. You can buy additional ones at a discounted price depending if you're staying 1 night or 2 nights. Well, you don't get those until you go to the registration booth upstairs. Well, registration booth downstairs, you get your convention pass and a quote unquote goodie bag. Well, you're already, delayed in the whole process because a lot of these areas they won't let you in without a pass. So if you get a pass through the Ticketmaster way, you already have a pass. You can go to the GameWorn area at whatever, versus having to go down the registration area and fight the stuff. But in theory, it shouldn't matter because the registration doors open at 12 noon on the books, and on the signing else, it showed the game locker room and all the other exhibits don't open till 3 o'clock. Well, myself and the other collectors, we already, we've known before when they've opened the doors early. It's better to be safe to sit in line for 2 hours than miss out. Well, we got down there and they already line set up for the game worn stuff, and the doors open at 30. So,
All right,
so I just happened to see the practice jerseys. I kind of made a beeline to them. And saw what it was there. And then other people were going to the grab bags or the pucks, like you were mentioning. So, yeah, so Friday I did catch people off guard where Saturday, Sunday, you just pretty make a makeshift line and kind of go with it. There's lines for everything, and they're not labeled. The security people half the time don't know what's going on. So it's kind of chaos. Yes, it's very chaotic. People waiting in line for the grand openings that were at Friday at 5 in the afternoon. They were already making pre-lines at like 7 a.m. that Friday before people were even checking in their hotels. And then there's some people waiting in line at like 3, 4 in the morning to get, middle players, that are going to sign until 7 o'clock at night the next day. I mean, crazy. There's lines for everything. So yeah, you really didn't. And then the live auction, they do those once a day. So they basically have a podium in the middle of the room, and then they have sticks, they have gloves, skates. Typically, the jerseys are ones that have been listed, on the forums, or ones that they find out of stores that are game issued, or just guys that are long gone off the Hawks, and they try to auction those off. Same with gloves and sticks like that. So, that's a free for all because anybody can bid. And they share the same expo or convention room or whatever as the autograph lines. It's a huge ballroom, so there'll be people even in line for an autograph like 50 or 100 feet, hundreds of feet away, that they'll bid in line. So you got to get your bid in. I was bidding on a game issued jersey, and myself and another guy was going back and forth, another collector. And I was waiting until, going once, going twice, and then throw in a last bid. And by then he couldn't hear me, and I was right up in front, and I missed out on another bid. So it is kind of chaotic, and they usually will have an announcer or a star player doing the bidding and stuff like that. In terms of the silent auction stuff, and there was the first few years, it was a true silent auction. There was a sheet of paper, you put your bid amount, and you were good. Well, some of the collectors, again, there's a few bad apples that will ruin it for everybody. They're hovering over sheets of paper or stealing the pen or crossing each other's names out, or basically, there'd be a 1 minute left count. People would hurry over and write another number in, and then they'd see somebody else and they'd hover over the sheets of paper and just basically fight over a sheet of paper. So they turn it into a bid off, which now they basically shut flip the sheets over, and then what they do is go item by item, and basically only if your name's on that sheet of paper can you do a bid. However, there's been instances when the players will come down and actually hold their item, it turns into a free-for-all, and they take bids from basically anybody, so it throws that out the window. For example, Shaw will usually come down and put his jersey on and start being the auctioneer for his own item. the rules go out the door about basically at that point, and then you just have people cranking up the bids, bidding on whatever. So you got to start asking, hey, is their name on the sheet? Well, it turns into a catastrophe basically at that point. But there's people that are bidding, or they're on their phones doing proxy bidding on the live bid off, or vice versa. So it turns pretty crazy pretty quick. So I don't know if they're way of doing it. I would say, what, for charity games, charity auction items, that a lot of the games, I know Ice Hogs do it. Chicago sometimes does it for their Blackhawk charities. They'll have iPads where you can put your bid amount in for the silent auction thing, and it's electronic, it's secure. You don't have to hover over a sheet of paper. You put your highest bid in you're comfortable doing and leave it at that. That would be fantastic, but I don't know. You would have to have 40 iPads for all these auction items. So unless you had like an item number where you could key in pad and do it that way. I don't know a better way to improve it other than, something electronic. I don't, maybe you guys have some thoughts too, but it turns very chaotic pretty quick. That's for sure.
So it sounds like from the collector's expo or collector's point of view, there's not a lot of drive, and if you're going there for the collector part, it's more you need to go in there with kind of like a focus and hit that specific spot. Otherwise, it's more or less catered to a fan event, if you will, for like the displays and the symposiums and things like that.
Yeah, the displays and symposiums and the interactive areas are great for the fan base. Same with the lines, the fan base. But in years past, they changed how the autograph lines are. You got to go into a line to get a wristband, and then later go into another line to actually show your wristband to get the autograph for the player. Or if you have a so many night stay, they guarantee you one autograph, and it could be anybody, just on a random draw. In the early years, you could go from the line. So if you're a group of you, you could kind of disperse out and grab more autographs and line jump per se, from the fan experience. Now it's not so much. Have as many discussion panels, and they're spread out more. So, and autograph lines usually have like 250, 350, and I think 400 wristbands minimum or maximum. So, in some cases, want a cane or tapes, they're most likely not going to be in a wristband. They're going to be like a scratch off winner line or something like that. So if you're a graph hound and that's your thing, you got to prioritize what you want autographed, and it can be anything from a picture or a stick. They don't have limitations on that. And in terms of the equipment sale, now it's all auction items, whether it's alive or silent for the most part, except for those few things that we're buying now that I mentioned. But in years past, they've actually had laundry bins out with skates and goalie gear and stuff like that. They've kind of not done that, and they actually will do an equipment sale later at one of the rinks in the suburbs. And I think they're trying to get the draw into the collector items that are bigger money, whether it's a frame with all the pucks used throughout the playoffs that are all signed, and team pictures and stuff like that. So the auctions are driven for collectors or fans that want to pay big money because they want something for their man cave, basically, per se. There is no low dollar items. If anything low dollar now, you're going to see it at the equipment sales in the suburbs. That's pretty much a full summary of everything that's there. Definitely high prices again, this year, and I'm going to need a second and third job to pay for the hobby of being a Hawk fan nowadays. So
Sounds like
Eric?
we need to keep an eye on those suburb sales. See when those are coming up.
Eric,
Yeah,
just
and
come down to the Blues. It's much cheaper.
yeah, I know. But that'd be fighting you guys for the goalie stuff because you're the goalie guys too. So, yeah, of like the suburb sale, they do it in Wilmette. They had one, I think, one time in Bensonville, but there's people lining up 3, 5, 6 hours ahead of time prior to the sale to get in there. I remember well, they didn't have one this year, but the last time I was there, I went, the next day, the Saturday, when it opened on Friday, and they had, some sticks along the wall behind the desk for sale, and they had canes and tapes for, $1,000, $1,500. And in the suburb where they had it, it was a well-to-do area. there's parents going in with cash, and a kid wanted a stick, or a couple of kids wanted sticks, and their parents just pulled out a wad of cash and thought nothing of it. So there's the money there in terms of, for they're going to make that money. So the Hawks are a hot item right now, and they're taking advantage of it. That's for sure. So, and in terms of collecting, going back to the Hawk quarters days where you could get certain guys, whether auction or just a flat price for under $1,000, we're never going to see that again. That's for sure.
Well, in an effort to confuse everyone, we've got two guys just joining us now. We've got Derek Christensen and Derek Whitwer.
How's it going?
So we've got 3 Dereks on the call now and an Eric. So that'll be a good time.
Nice.
Yeah, we're going to have to start nicknames.
Right? So Derek Christensen, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. I'm glad I could join you guys.
Yeah, dude, thanks for joining. Hopefully everything went well with your date, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No complaints.
Awesome. I know you're in the Chicago area. Did you have a chance to go to the convention, or have you been to one in the past?
Yes, I did go. This was actually my first one, so I know I kind of caught the tail end of the last discussion there. So, this is my first Blackhawks convention, but I had gone to other conventions there, like the Cubs have their convention there, and the Bears used to have a convention. So, in terms of the way the whole thing is run, I mean, it's very similar. I mean, all 3 teams kind of do a similar thing in terms of what was being described before. You have your autograph lines, you have your exhibits, you have your little speakers and things like that, interactive games. The Hawks definitely was a little bit different in terms of, as what was already described, so I don't want to really repeat anything. But, yeah, in terms of the live auction and the equipment sales. So that was definitely something that was a little bit new for me. I did end up coming away with a few items. So I was actually pretty pleased and glad I ended up going. So overall, it was a good experience. But I think you kind of mentioned it before. Unless you go there looking for like very specific things, it just kind of gets out of hand. But for me, I came away with a couple of Jamal Mayer's jerseys, which those of you that know me know I collect Western Michigan University, and he's one of our biggest alums. So I came away with his practice jersey, which is a straight sale, and then I got his, I guess you would say it's a game issued playoff jersey from the 12-13 season. He would have worn it for warm-ups. He took warm-ups, but he didn't actually play any of the games. But needed it for my collection, and then they actually had some combine jerseys there. And there's a kid that is a sophomore at Western Michigan, Frederick Tiffels, that I picked up his combine jersey. So all in all, I was pretty happy. But again, that's because I was going in with specific things. If it wasn't for those things available, I probably wouldn't have bought anything at all.
Very cool, man.
And
Well,
you
great
know
to
what?
get your
Not to
input.
interrupt, but just to chime in too, from a collector standpoint, here's where the confusion is going to get. Practice jerseys, and maybe you can let me know on the combine stuff, but the practice jerseys came with an LOA from the convention,
right?
Where there's some practice jerseys now listed up for sale on the forum. They do not come with an LOA. So down the road for collectors, I don't know what players off the top of my head are not coming with LOA off the forum sales. So you're going to have a mixture that some sold with an LOA, some did not. And then in some cases, people were buying them at the convention and not picking up the LOAs from the sales table either. So, I know some like that little sheet of paper saying it's an authentic jersey, from the Hawks, but that little sheet of paper might not be around depending on how they bought it, whether at the sale, whether the forum, or 10 years later. So, just want to kind of put that out on the records, for other collectors who down the road might pick up something that was sold this year. So
right, and those combine jerseys, none of them had LOAs as far as I know. Obviously, those aren't like expensive items and will probably never be really valuable unless one of those guys like really makes it big. But yeah, none of those had LOAs as far as I know. I didn't get one of mine, that's for sure.
Well, great to have you guys. We'll get back to the Blackhawks convention. I want to talk to Mr. Derek Whitwer for a minute. I had the opportunity to meet him at the Meigray Expo. Now, Derek, was that your first time going to that?
That was my, I think, 10th or 11th expo.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ain't no joke, man.
Well, I remember back when that expo was actually a pool party at Milt Byron's house. So Goes back a few years.
What would you think of it this year?
You know, I think now we pretty much know what to expect with the Meigray Expo. You know, on one hand, it is a very large advertisement for Meigray, but it draws in a ton of collectors that you wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to meet. So, from that standpoint, it's nice to make those connections with collectors. Um, there's not nearly as much horse trading that goes on at a Meigray Expo as does the others that collectors host around the country. Uh, but it definitely serves its purpose.
Yeah, I'd say that's one of my favorite parts coming out of the expo. There was actually meeting a lot of people that I knew about or have talked to before, and just getting to see them in person and just kind of shoot the shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's um, you know, there aren't too many opportunities to put 100 to 150 collectors in a room together, and getting to make those connections. I've been able to make connections with collectors over the years where I may not have done a deal at the Meigray Expo, but we've ended up doing a lot of deals and supplementing each other's collections out of it. So,
Did you get anything from the warehouse sale?
well, of course, I got the flyer for all of the summer sale things, and I ended up getting two things that were on consignment that weren't even on the sale. So,
There you go. Seems to be the case, doesn't it?
yeah, exactly.
It was pretty awesome to see at the show. I mean, it was my first time going there, and it was a really cool experience. I've been to shows before, like the Toledo show, and when we did the one out in San Jose, but this was definitely quite a bit different in nature. And I was telling the guys earlier before you popped on about the Mike Bossy talking to everybody. I thought that was pretty cool. I heard a couple collectors saying he was one of the best speakers that they've had there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, no bullshit. I mean, he was straight up. When they asked him what he thought of Wayne Gretzky, and he gave the story about first time he met him, he was 2 hours late for a photo shoot. You could see in his eyes, he's like, I hate that asshole.
Oh yeah, I mean he pulled no punches for sure, even when it came to Barry. So I thought that was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, definitely one of the best guests that's ever been part of a Meigray Expo, and it's nice that Barry is using his connections to get some hockey Hall of Famers and some real quality guests, and you know, I guess it kind of makes up for the fact that there aren't any other dealers in the room.
What'd you think of that really weird guy walking around with that tablet and that camera on a string?
Yeah, it was good to meet you too.
What was your favorite display?
The Hockey Hall of Fame always comes with just incredible stuff. I mean, this was all Wolves this year. They had minor league stuff of Hall of Famers from the 20s. I mean, just absolutely incredible. And the Hockey Hall of Fame only displays about 5 to 7% of their total collection at any given time. So it's a great excuse to get some stuff out of the mothballs and on display for the collectors.
Yeah, it was definitely cool seeing some of that real old school stuff. I know we got some really good pictures on the review article for that. Now, the Hockey Hall of Fame was also at the Blackhawks Convention, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
And
Right.
what kind of cool stuff did they have there? Was it all related to Blackhawks history? I'm sure it was.
Yeah, it was all Blackhawks related. It was definitely cool. I mean, I've been to the Hall of Fame, but, as just mentioned, I mean, they don't have nearly, everything they have on display that they have. So just to, see, obviously being a Hawks fan, some of the older jerseys that, you've seen pictures of, but you've never seen really up close in person. It was actually really cool to see.
All right, Derek, so which is better, Mayors or DeKaiser?
I would say right now you'd probably have to go with Mayors, but long term, DeKaiser will probably be the best alum that we've kind of cranked out. So if you're looking at long term, I'm going to go with DeKaiser. But, Jamal's got a Stanley Cup ring. He played in the league, I think 11, 12 years. So it's kind of tough to knock that at this point.
I just had to bust your chops on that one.
No worries. I kind of expected it.
You know what? DeKaiser's Detroit. Who cares?
Oh, whoa. Not cool.
It's all
So
good.
I
It's
did
all
want to
good fun.
talk about the warehouse sale now. I personally didn't go in there with anything. I know a couple people asked me to look at some stuff, but a lot of it was stuff that was going to be there anyway and they could do the online order. I was a little bit crunched for time because when the show was over at about 4 o'clock, we actually started ramping down around 3:30 and start packing up and everything. And me being me, taking absolutely every friggin' thing that I have, took me like an hour just to bust everything down, get it out to the vehicle and stuff. So we didn't get over to the warehouse until about a half hour after everybody was already in there mussing around and everything. But when I got there, you go in the front door, and they kind of have for the people that I didn't get to record the front office, but it's kind of like a front office where they can do all their business and stuff. And then you go follow a hallway to a door that leads into the warehouse. And when you go through the door, if you immediately go left, there's stairs down at the end of this hallway that you can go up. So it's a two-level warehouse, really. It's like scaffolding. So we went straight to the back, and I got my live feed set up so everybody can see it, and just started walking down. And man, what was this, like four tall, 4 or 5 like tall, down each row, like racks tall, just packed with jerseys, all over the place. The consignment rack was in the back. Everything else was Meigray stuff. They had all the basketball, the football stuff in there too. And and I mean, if you watch the video, it's just it kind of blows you away. It's a little bit more, for the first time you see it, it's just like shell shock. And for me, one of the things that did for me was it made me realize that I have too much stuff. So if you guys have seen on the forums and some of the Facebook groups, I've been trying to unload quite a bit. I would say maybe a quarter of my collection, just because I feel like I have too much stuff. So that's kind of like the impact it had on me. Um, and luckily, I was able to get some video out of that. Some people said it made them feel seasick, but it is what it is, man. The place is huge, and Barry was even. I think I caught uh, on the feed some discussion Barry was having with some of the other collectors there about getting an even bigger warehouse because they just have too much stuff. So it sounds to me like everybody needs to buy, right?
Derek, are you afraid that your spare bedroom is going to start looking like the Meigray warehouse?
More or less my basement. I mean, I'm in the process of putting a inline ice rink down there, a synthetic ice rink, and I still got to figure out how my jerseys are gonna play into that. But I mean, right now I've got jerseys in my spare bedroom. I've got jerseys on a rack in the basement, and I've got a baby on the way, which is actually why Bert couldn't join us. Congratulations, Bert, on the new child. Um, but I mean, between all that, it's just I don't know. I decided I needed to narrow my focus a little bit. I kind of in the past just been like, I like that, I'll get it. But I really need to start focusing on something specific. I think it makes me feel a little bit more accomplished when I try to get specific things as opposed to, oh, this looks cool for now and then get it later. I need to stop doing that. It's the impulse buys that are killing me, I think.
Yeah,
Oh,
I totally agree with that. And we had talked about that I think last week, Derek. I had the same experience at the Toledo Expo, so I couldn't imagine what the Meigray warehouse kind of impact it had. But yeah, I mean that Toledo Expo was kind of like the same thing. Same thing with the San Jose one. I mean, you see some collectors out there with just like massive amounts of like racks, and I mean it's cool, but at the same time, like I know you had the same feeling. It's like, wow, do I really want to go down that path? And you kind of start to reevaluate like what you have. And I was the same way. I would just, if something was cool and it was a decent price, I'd buy it. And you get to the point where it's like, do I really need all this stuff? And especially with me just moving and downsizing, it's just, as I told you, just having a focus. I feel a lot more comfortable now, and as I think you put it perfectly, you feel a bit more accomplished when you get something that really fits within your collection as opposed to just a bunch of random stuff, which was kind of the road I was going down up until you know, about 6 months ago or so.
Yeah, it's that wide scope versus narrow scope thing, trying to
Right.
find like what your niche is gonna be.
And I think you see that, and I've gone through the same thing. As at some point, I think I had 250 game worn jerseys, and I shed a bunch of ones off and kind of focused on a couple different players and just blue stuff and that instead of going trying to get every team and home and away and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, do you enjoy having 600 jerseys because you can have them, or do you have 50 that really have a meaning behind them to you?
Now, Derek W, which is also me, but I'm referring to Whitwer. You mentioned at the show that you actually go to, or you set up a table over at the Nova Expo. We actually haven't had anybody on the show that was been able to talk about that yet. So if you could kind of clue us into a little bit about the Nova Expo put on by Francis Ratty.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's definitely a smaller group of collectors than what you saw at Meigray. There's a definite Capitals focus given the location, but there have been some surprises that some things that have come through the door over the years. Francis does an absolutely incredible job of putting it on. I think this year will be 10 years he's been doing it. And it really is a show for horse trading. There are a ton of deals that go on at that show, both beforehand, during it, and afterwards. Typically guys, even if they're from the area, will stay at the hotel Friday and Saturday night, so that there's some time to see what everyone's brought and try and do some trading. But Barry and Meigray set up there. We've had Joe Toman there a couple of years. Milt set up at it when he was a dealer, etc. So, I'd say it's probably more like 25 to 50 through the door, plus those that set up. But but it is a lot of fun, and with my focus being Capitals, it's definitely the show where I add the most to my collection and make the most deals.
Now, from the pictures that I've seen from the one last year, you had a Gretzky jersey there, and somebody told me that it was a friend of yours. Somebody told me it was yours. I couldn't make rhyme or reason, but I had somebody reach out to me to try and find out whose that was, so they could talk to him about it. And that was one of the cool things for me, is when I actually saw you at the Meigray show, I was able to talk to you about that and trying to get you linked up with him to get information on that jersey.
Yeah, just for full disclosure, I don't own any Gretzky's. Wish I did. No, that table that the photos have been posted online, that is a friend of mine who chooses to remain anonymous. But yeah, the jerseys that were on that table were incredible. It was an 82-83 Road Gretzky that's photo matched to the Sportsman of the Year Sports Illustrated cover.
Wow.
Gretzky's first captain's jersey, his first home captain's jersey from LA, a 69-70 Gordie Howe Red Wings green. And then just, for filler, there was an 02-03 Messier and an 84-85 Bossy. So
yeah, for
definitely
filler.
a high power collector, and he was nice enough to allow me to display some of his stuff.
That'd be pretty incredible to just have that kind of history in your hands at one point in time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Is there any plans on that stuff showing up in another show that I can show up to?
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would love to try and make it there specifically to see those. I mean, those are pretty epic.
Yeah, it's definitely it was one of those things that it made me a little bit nervous to actually have them in my possession for a weekend. But really cool, and it's really cool that even though that collector doesn't want to be identified, that he's like, yeah, take them out, show them to people, let them put them on. It's part of hockey history. So
yeah, I think
neat.
that's great. I mean, to each their own. If you want to be anonymous, be anonymous. But I mean, definitely let people see.
Yeah,
what
but don't
you
lock
have.
everything in a closet.
Exactly. I love that. That's awesome. I mean, send on my props to that. I think that's super cool. So, you Chicago convention goers, are you planning on going to the Meigray Expo anytime soon?
I would definitely be open to it, depending on what my summer plans are. Next year, it seems like the two kind of fall on the same weekend, and the Western Michigan alumni outing usually right around the same weekend too. So I kind of like three things I kind of have to kind of decide upon. But one of these days, the Migrate is definitely something I'd want to go to.
Yeah, I'm the same way. As long as if they had something later, summer, August, September time frame, or even in the spring, kind of the same thing. As long as it's not the same weekend or weekend below or above the convention, that's where choices have to be made. So
Well, I got to ask Derek Whitwer about his favorite thing about the Meigray Expo this year. What was your guys' favorite thing about the Blackhawks convention?
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and jump in. I mean, for me, I mean the interactive stuff, the speakers and all that stuff. I mean, that's cool. Like I said, I've experienced that with like the Cubs and Bears conventions. So, it is what it is. As mentioned before, if you're going there for autographs, it's not really like the best, place to kind of do that. But for me personally, like I said, I filled a major niche in my collection with, getting those Jamal Mayers jerseys. So for me, that was definitely the highlight. But I think maybe even more than that, I got to meet some people that kind of like, as you mentioned, the Meigray, that I've chatted with on Facebook but never actually met in person. So that's, as other people have mentioned various times, I mean, that's the best part about the hobby, is just actually getting to meet the people, putting a face to the name, and actually just like you said, just kind of get to know them personally, even aside from just the jersey collecting. So that and the additions, I mean, that's obviously, it was just a win all around for me.
yeah, it's like a fan reunion every year. Going to the convention, you see the guys, and sometimes it's just pick up where you left off a discussion. Last year or even 2 weeks prior to, emailing, hey, what's going on, kind of deal. Um, that's the best time in terms of, for us hot collectors too, is just to get a chance to talk with some of the other equipment guys on little quirky things some of the guys do, or just what's upcoming to look for on certain equipment, or jerseys that they got them a certain way, customized stuff, or just hearing stories overall, because they are with the players every day, um, you know working on their stuff. So it's a big education time, not only just with the other collectors, but talking to those guys too. So I enjoy that. And then the other part is the whole bidding thing. Some enjoy the high of the bid or whatever the case is, and in some cases I just enjoy watching some of the deep pocket collectors just keep their hands up when they're just going at 25 or $100 increments on things, and they're not even flinching. It's like, I'm glad it's your wallet. So sometimes it's just entertainment value overall, just to watch what stuff goes for, and just kind of watching with other people's reactions too.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that really quickly, because that was actually, like I said, the first time I've been at the convention. That's the first time I met Troy, who's the head equipment manager, and he was just a great guy. I mean, I had a few questions about some of my jerseys and actually about the Mayor's jersey that I'd bought, and was willing to talk about just anything and everything. Just real personable guy, and that's with all the other guys that I had met too. But it was, like you said, it was really cool just to kind of hear their side of it. And I mean, they could pretty much answer any question about the stuff, and they were more than willing to do so. So that was really great.
That's really cool when you can get the equipment manager that's really approachable and enjoys talking about stuff like that. It's awesome.
And the trick is Troy overlooks he's the head equipment guy, and then sometimes you have other ones that handle specific things, or they're mostly behind the scenes running around during the game, and then Troy's at the bench, or vice versa. So certain guys know certain quirky things. I know last year before, something like that, there was like an inside joke with Kane and Crawford, and at practice they'd draw pucks on each other's sticks, whether it was a joke or whatever the case is. And I stumbled into a stick that had that on there, and then I got to meet and talk to one of the equipment guys. He's like, "Oh yeah, that's the inside joke," and told the whole story about that. And that's something usually you see sticks, they're retaped or whatever the case is, and I was lucky enough to get one that has that whole story behind it. So otherwise, you would have been like, what punk kid, took paint or Sharpie marker and drew a puck on a stick? This is bogus, whatever the case is. So yeah, just little stories like that, little quirky things. It's kind of cool. Troy takes plenty of time out to talk with everybody, or even Jeff or some of the other guys. So that's the best part of the whole thing, is just getting to talk to them and being in the crowd. I'm not sure how the other team sales or auctions are if you get that much FaceTime with the equipment guys, but definitely that's one of my highlights there. So it's like, if you have an itemized list of questions, just kind of rattle them out and they'll answer them where they can. So
Final thoughts on the Blackhawks convention? Overall, a good time, recommended?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
well,
Especially if you're a Blackhawks fan. I mean, it's, you just have to kind of maybe not have like huge expectations, like I said, in terms of like autographs or, anything like that. But if you kind of know what you're going for, it was definitely a good time. I'm really glad I went this time.
Derek Whitwer, what are your final thoughts on the Meigray Expo, being a seasoned veteran?
Well, I'll end with a quick story about Barry. I had mentioned to him that I had an interest in acquiring some WHA jerseys, and he said, and I didn't know this, that he is quite a WHA collector personally. And I told him, wow, I'd really like to see your collection sometime. So on Saturday, he brought his tub of WHA jerseys to the show, and shared them with me and another collector, Robert Butler, who flew up from Birmingham, Alabama, who's also interested in WHA stuff, and shared with us some incredible jerseys that I never thought I'd see a photo of, much less hold in my hands, like home and road New York Raiders jerseys. A Philadelphia / Vancouver Blazers. Just some incredible stuff that you never see. And so that's really what the hobby's about. And, Barry gets it as the major dealer in the hobby. He's not just all about the almighty dollar. He still is a passionate collector, and is willing to share when you ask. So that was one of the major highlights for me of the show.
Definitely, that's a great story. I didn't even know that went down. That's great.
I was kind of behind his table because I didn't think he wanted everyone, pawing on home, one of 4 home New York Raiders jerseys to exist. But it was unbelievable to see the stuff.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank all you guys for joining us on the show today. Unfortunately, we did have to push back the time because I couldn't get any East Coasters to join us as I thought we could. But that's okay. I'm glad you could join us last minute. Skype's not too hard to work out, is it, Derek?
I think I got it figured out.
Yeah, not too bad. So I'm going to use this as shameless plug time. If anybody listening knows of a Toledo Walleye Batman jersey, I need one of those, not for myself, but to trade away instantaneously for a mini grail of mine. So if anybody has any leads on any, that would be fantastic. I'm willing to buy or trade for. If you guys have any plugs you want to put out there, we've got a couple minutes. Going once.
Well, as I mentioned, I collect. This is Derek Christensen. So if anybody has any old Western Michigan jerseys laying around, I'm the person to talk to, especially older stuff, definitely.
Derek, I do have. I just picked them both up almost the exact same time, ironically. Both Jamal Mayer's skates and a pair and one of his Blues jerseys. It's all was shredded pretty good.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I've got one of his home Blues jerseys, and it's got a huge tear right down the middle of the collar. So I mean, he's a scrapper, so he's usually got some good wear in his. Yeah.
Well, and I found the skates.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say he's just a great guy though. It's cool because I've got to meet him a couple times, and he's known as kind of the enforcer and this this rough and tumble guy, but you get him off the ice and he's the most nicest, most approachable, most humble guy, which I think those of you guys that are into enforcers, I think have had the same experience. They tend to be some of the nicest guys actually in the game.
Yeah, which is quite funny. And the funny quick story on the skates is somebody had them on as like, I just like finding old blues equipment, skates and things like that. And somebody had them on eBay saying they were, I think they said they were like number 55 written on the bottom, whatever. And it was Christian
Yeah.
Bachman or something. And it was cheap. So I picked them up, got them home, flipped them over, and number 21 was written plain as day on the bottom of them, and went to
Oh, nice.
pictures, and they're the exact model he wore.
Very cool.
Hidden gem.
Exactly.
Any other plugs?
Riverman Equipment Sale, SPHL, as if anybody cares, starts Monday. It's Monday through Friday all week in their shop in Peoria. You can get it off their Facebook page. I just posted it yesterday, but it starts Monday at 9 a.m. Gonna have everything: pants, skates, gloves, shin pads, elbow pads, sticks. They're saying jerseys for $59, but I'm assuming those are just their replica ones.
Well, you know me. If they got some cheap goalie leg pads, let me know.
Their picture shows a few, but I don't know if that's correct because it doesn't mention any goalie stuff. But you better believe I'm calling tomorrow morning, so I will let you know.
Yeah,
Sounds
you know what?
good.
You'll have to get a list to go on to what they have goalie wise. You know, we were talking about the goalie cuts before the recording and stuff like that, and you know, especially if certain jerseys or whatever, if that's $59 or whatever the case is, that's definitely something to look into. Can't go
Yep.
wrong with the price.
As soon as I find out, I'll put a message out to you guys.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Doc.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap up the show. I want to thank you guys, each of you, for coming on and joining this week. I know it was last minute, but it was great having you guys on, especially with all the different experiences that went on this week. We had a little bit of flavor from each one, so that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for doing this, Derek.
Yeah, definitely. I enjoy it every week. All right, so our next show, we're going to be planning that for 2 weeks from today. I believe we're going to start that at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As usual, you can join our GameWorn Radio Facebook group, and you can also check us out on the GameWorn.us forums. We've got a sub-forum specifically for the radio show, and we will get the recording out there for anybody who couldn't listen live to go ahead and listen. I'll probably have that out next week. If anybody is listening and they do want to join the show in the future, we do all the call-ins on Skype, so you can just add our Skype ID. You search for Game Worn, we'll show up. Pretty easy to find. We connect people about a half hour before the call, all the way up through during the show. So you can call in, feel free whenever it's convenient for you guys. So we hope to hear from you in the future. Next week's topic, when we figure out what it's going to be, we'll go ahead and post it on the forums and on the Facebook. Appreciate the listen. Thank you.